into the open forum. We didn't have anybody submit anything, did we?
No, I haven't got Jan called yet.
Okay.
Do you want me to go ahead and call her?
Let's try.
Okay.
We could go ahead with commissioner comments, couldn't we?
Unless they have something to do with the new business, which I guess we would need to wait till then anyway. Sorry, I'm learning as I go. Are there any commissioner comments?
Just, I got a great big notebook. Did you all? That I haven't had, and that's not on the agenda, I understand. I can talk
Is
about it.
impressive. Yeah.
Yeah. The only thing that it occurred to me that I ought to mention, and because I don't know when's the right time, but we did have 7 members of the board, and now we only have 5 currently. It's my understanding that Phil has resigned, and of course Ida. So that means we're a board of 5. So we're going to have to be more careful with interaction between board members because of coma. So you
Right.
can talk, it's kind of like the city commission. I can talk with one other commissioner, but I need to not talk to 2 others. So I just was, now that we're down to 5, that's kind of territory I'm familiar with. And I just thought I would raise that issue. Because we've not had to, we could talk to 2 others when we were 7, but now it's a little different.
That is good to know. Does someone have the executive session verbatim statement that we're supposed to read when we go into executive session handy?
That was always Phil's department.
Kennedy, I can try to email you the language real quick.
That would be helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, it was in a previous email, but it's kind of buried.
Exactly. I've been going through a million emails trying to find it. So
Jan is logging on now.
Okay.
She's gonna use her laptop instead of her iPad, hoping for better results.
It's the last page of the agenda, I think.
of this agenda,
Yeah, it is on mine.
okay.
Recess into executive session until a certain time for the purpose of discussing matters of non-elected personnel. If that's enough, and maybe Craig would say how it needs to be edited.
I think it needs to include who's gonna be included in that executive session.
Okay,
I don't know if you all need some time with Craig, without staff in there. I do need to talk to the commissioners for a minute at some point in executive session.
Okay, so I think what we need to do is we as a board definitely need to talk to Craig without staff. And then when you need your section, is it just that you need to talk to the board, or do you also need to talk to Craig?
I don't think Craig has to be in there when I talk to the board.
Okay, perfect. So we'll move in. Okay, so let me open my email.
Not from my perspective, the board may request that he stay. It's up to you guys. But I don't think anything we need him in there for.
how long do we want this executive session to last?
I think with Craig, we probably only need 10 minutes or so. Craig, what do you think?
Yeah, that sounds fine to me.
Okay.
Okay. Oh,
I guess let's go ahead with it. And if Jan pops in, we'll just let her in, I guess.
Okay, so I move to recess into executive session under KSA 75-4319, subsection B1, for the purposes of discussing personnel matters of non-elected personnel related to the executive director position until 5:55, because we always have a little bit of trouble. So until 5:55, with the following people present: Craig and the board.
And then how are you getting Joanne? Are you going to have a second executive session?
Right.
Okay.
Yes, we'll have to come out of executive session to bring her in, and
Okay.
also so that Craig can go in.
Okay, sounds like a plan. Second,
All right, let's call it.
Right, Linda,
yes?
Livy,
Yes.
Kennedy,
Yes.
and Jamie. Yes. All right, I'm you all right. Oh, here comes Jan.
Sorry, guys, I just lost track of time.
Okay, we're heading into executive session right now. You're just in time.
Oop, am I mute? Can you hear
No.
me?
We can hear you.
Okay, here I am. I'm very, very sorry.
Okay, we're going into executive session right now. We're only in there until 55.
Okay, awesome. I don't think that's enough time.
Randy, did you pause the recording? You don't need to? Okay.
But can you mute yourself?
Okay, having come out of that executive session, 2 actions will be taken. The first action is that Craig will prepare documents as requested by HUD. And will have them for the board to approve based on what he learns further from whoever he needs to get information from. And the second action is
Hold on, yeah,
that,
I think maybe make that by way of motion.
oh, shall we make that a motion?
Yeah,
Somebody want to make that motion?
So moved.
Second,
And seconded. Call the question, Mandy.
Kennedy,
yes.
Livy,
Yes.
Linda,
Yes,
Jan,
Yes.
and Jamie.
The second action is that based on the last executive session of last week's meeting, I need someone to make a motion that a written reply is being prepared on the questions asked during that executive session and will be provided to the appropriate
Parties?
parties. Someone want to make that motion?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
Second.
Jamie and Kennedy. I don't think we should have any further discussion on that. Somebody, Mandy, call a question.
Kennedy,
Yes.
Livy,
Yes.
Linda,
yes,
Jan,
Yes,
and Jamie. Yes.
okay.
Wait, Jan,
Yes,
before we go, Joanne also wanted to talk to the board for a bit, and then we also need to convene as a board without Craig here for both of those, I think.
for not another executive session.
Yes, for executive session. So we need 2 more executive sessions.
Oh, God. Okay. Craig, I think that if we are not needing your assistance with either of those and you would like to go home and have dinner, you may go home and do that.
thank you. I will head downstairs and have dinner.
Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much
Craig.
for all of your help with all of this stuff. We appreciate it.
surprise your family.
And so are we back in with that same wording? We don't have the proper wording on the,
I'll pull it up again
okay.
on my phone.
But we,
Do we want to do those now or later? We want to do those now first? Okay,
I would like to make sure we have enough time. I mean,
yes,
some of us don't even get to report in. Our executive session is so short. So anyway, just saying.
I agree.
Joanne, how much time do you need for your executive session?
I would give us 15 minutes.
Is that
Okay.
an over idea or an under idea?
Probably, and under, I mean, a lot's gonna depend on you guys.
Let's do 20. Somebody make the motion.
I'll do 22.
Okay.
That way we can account for technology glitches,
Okay.
technological glitches.
That's true.
Okay.
Technology.
Okay, so I move to recess into executive session under KSA 75-4319 subsection B1 for the purposes of discussing personnel matters of non-elected personnel related to the executive director position until 6:22. And for that, I'd like to have Joanne and the board. Is it also Aaron or just Joanne?
Just Joanne.
Okay, Joanne and the board.
Second.
I second the motion.
Linda seconds the motion. Call the roll.
Kennedy,
Yes.
Livy,
Yes.
Linda,
Yes.
Jan,
Yes,
and Jamie.
yes. Go ahead, Jamie.
Yes.
All right, let's go.
Okay, give me 1 second.
Thank you for all your technical wonderfulness, Mandy.
We're just zooming all over.
Okay.
Sorry, put Jillian in her own room.
Oh, it wouldn't be the first time.
So I don't know, are we moving on an action or not?
Not yet.
Okay,
I guess we're going back in.
we're going back in, but with everybody, including Joanne and Aaron.
Correct.
All right, I need a motion. Read the motion, Kennedy.
I'm finding it again on my phone.
Hi, Aaron, how are you?
I'm all
Okay.
right.
So I move to recess into executive session under KSA 75-4319, subsection B1, for the purposes of discussing personnel matters of non-elected personnel related to the executive director position until,
7 o'clock.
no, that's way too long. Because we can't come out if we go in at 7 o'clock.
Okay, what? 6:50?
How much time do you need, Joanne?
6:45.
Okay.
But Kennedy needs time.
No, but they're gonna leave when I need to talk to you.
Okay,
So we have to go in completely separate.
okay.
So,
So
6:45,
6:45.
and the following people will be present. Joanne, Aaron, and the board.
Second.
Was that Livy that second or Jamie?
Yeah.
Livy.
Yes, 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 yes.
Okay, Kennedy,
Yes.
Livy,
Yes.
Linda,
Yes.
Jamie,
Yes.
and Jan.
Yes.
Okay. Breakout room number 3. Okay, y'all should be going.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, so we have an action to be taken by the present executive director. And I think that we will turn it over to Joanne to voice that action. You're muted.
The action will be, the recommendation would be to provide a salary increase to the Assistant Executive Director based on her knowledge and her skills and abilities that will be beneficial to assist with the transition of executive directors that will be presented in a future budget revision.
Okay. And I don't think it's necessary for us to vote on this at this time, but we will, do we?
We'll consider the budget revision at the next meeting.
Okay, somebody make a motion to do that.
No, you
Wait,
don't need to move.
We don't, yeah, we will approve it at the budget change that will appear in the financial reports of the next meeting. Right? Kennedy's
Well,
made-
my recommendation is that it happen immediately and be reflected in the budget revision that will be presented at the next board meeting.
Okay, there we go.
Joanne.
Thank you, Joanne. I knew I wasn't saying the right thing. Okay, now. Do we still need another executive session?
We
Kennedy?
do. Let me get my handy dandy thing I have to read. But it's only a short one, Jan. I
And
know
it's
this is the bane
just
of-
for the board?
Yes.
Okay,
So I move to recess into executive session under KSA 75-4319 subsection B1 for the purposes of discussing matters of non-elected personnel related to the executive director position until 6:55.
make it
6:55.
7. Make it 7 so we don't have to go back.
Okay, 7. And with the following people present, the board.
Somebody second that.
I second.
Linda seconds. Call the roll.
Livy,
Yes.
Jamie. Yes. Linda,
Yes.
Ann,
Yes.
and Kennedy.
Yes.
All right. All right, y'all should be going.
Okay, coming out of that executive session, we have an action and a motion. Where's
So
Jane?
the action that we took in that executive session was to ensure that the new executive director has access to all accounts, files, systems, facilities, and information necessary in order to perform the responsibilities of his position.
By the very latest end of
Business day
business
tomorrow.
tomorrow. So he needs keys and he needs everything that he needs to get into anything. That's the action. And the motion, Kennedy?
And the motion is that Aaron Estabrook has permission of the board to work on behalf in all capacities of the Manhattan Housing Authority with all of our accounts.
Need a second?
I have a question. So Jamie did a motion, but we
No,
had
Jamie's is not a motion, it's just an action.
action. Okay.
It's just to ensure, it was a discussion item to ensure and follow up that that has occurred.
And we need a second to Kennedy's motion.
Joanne, do you have comments on this? We might need your input.
We need a second
Yes.
before we can discuss it.
Second.
Libby seconds. Okay, discussion?
So we have started that process of getting him access to everything. With the HUD systems, it's going to, part of the HUD systems, he actually got signed up for his username today. And some of the access to some parts of that system require board chair signature and certification that we have to send in. So there's parts of that system that he won't have access to until that comes, but it will come to the Housing Authority. And once he gets it, he will have access to it.
Will somebody want to come get my signature? We can take care of that tomorrow.
We will get your signature, but it's not, he's not gonna have access tomorrow.
Okay,
Yeah.
no,
We have to get it started.
I
It
think
is already started.
I think it's just, I think it's understandable that there are certain things that he may not have access to tomorrow. We just want all the paperwork completed so that he can have access to everything and that he can get a set of keys tomorrow.
He can at least have the keys that he needs tomorrow for getting into the office and doing all of those things. Sometimes they have to go have some made, and there are keys that cannot be duplicated. So they usually get that done at Karsmitsky. And Karsmitsky is not always in. I will see if there's somewhere else they can get them made, but they're specific to our lock systems.
Okay, actually, Joanne, you have plenty on your plate. Aaron, can you take that on?
Well, the maintenance guys do the keys.
And
Okay,
and I want to
Can you
not
do the
confuse
keys?
Mandy, for the purpose of the minutes, I want to not confuse this more. I want to make sure that it says necessary for his roles and responsibilities and ability to perform his duties. So that, we don't want to get lost in the weeds of every access point on every property at this exact moment. So prioritize based on what's necessary to do the roles and responsibilities of the position.
Right, and I think my motion wasn't even related to the access points. My motion was simply related to whether or not he could work on behalf of us as the executive director
Yeah.
when it comes to contacting HUD.
Oh,
We're mixing up the two things. We're mixing up the action and the motion.
And so we just need something so that Joanne or so that Jan can sign it saying that he can contact the bank. He can contact HUD on our behalf. And we need that created tomorrow, so that it can be turned in tomorrow, or so that he
right.
can access to that document tomorrow.
Understand, for the bank accounts, there's going to be signature cards that have to be circulated to take me off and add him between Jan and Libby and Aaron. Of course, Aaron's signature is readily accessible and then those have to be turned into the bank. So the processes have to take place. There's no problem with it. I'm just saying that there's processes that have to take place for all of that to happen.
I think my big concern is him having autonomy and access to being able to contact HUD as he needs to in the next couple of days.
I think that's not a problem at all.
Okay.
But I guess I have a question about it though. And my question is there some reason to believe that he wouldn't have, that we wouldn't allow him access to files and?
No, I think this stems from us as a board needing to ensure that it's recognized that that's been authorized and that we want to make sure that that's recognized.
Okay, I don't know, okay. I was confused.
And that time is of the essence on it, that it's been both authorized, but also that we want to make sure that it happens before, within a reasonable time frame so that he can start taking on roles and responsibilities as they are applicable.
Right.
So it's not necessarily a concern other than an acknowledgement and a request to make sure that we as a board know that that's happening.
Right, and a lot of those processes are already in place. We've already done a lot of the paperwork, and when he receives his keys, he'll sign for his keys. I haven't had him sign that document because he hasn't been issued them, and I wouldn't sign for something I hadn't been issued. But there's no problem with that. It's just that some of those processes are not a matter of saying, okay, you have access. You have to go through the processes, especially with the HUD systems, because it's a security thing.
And does Aaron have an email address yet?
Yes.
Housing Authority one?
HAS.org.
Okay, we just noticed that some of his emails were still coming through the Gmail account, so I just wasn't sure, and that was a couple of days ago. So I noticed that, I'm the email police. So I'm always noticing who's included on the email, and I noticed that he didn't have an email coming from the Housing Authority, so.
Yeah, he's been set up. He's been set up with a username and password to the computer. A lot of it's been a timing issue. Aaron's been meeting with staff, and I've had several meetings that I've included Aaron in, and he's been attending the conference and all of those kind of things. So it's a matter of sitting down, and tomorrow, I don't think there's any appointments on our calendars, on mine anyway. Oh, he does have some, the conference stuff tomorrow, but we're getting to it, and I appreciate having that authorization. Not that I had any question about it.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor. Mandy, you have a question?
Not a question, I was just gonna make a comment. I got signature cards today, and I had told Aaron that I would get his signature on Friday, but I can go ahead and get that tomorrow, and then I'll come by Jan's and Libby's and grab theirs, and I'll have to get pictures of driver's license as well. So if you just want to email those to me, that will work. But other than that, I just have to take it to the bank, and I can put his signature in on Monday for checks.
Okay, great.
I just want to make a remark and say that I have worked my tail off for this housing authority for 33 years, and I have no reason to withhold anything from Aaron, because I want the housing authority to be successful. So I will make sure he has every access that he needs.
We have,
Okay.
Joanne, I also understand that there is a lot to, it's hard to even know where to begin when you have 34 years of knowledge that you're trying to tell someone who's just beginning with the organization, right? And so we understand all of that. It's not that we think that you're withholding the information or like preventing him from doing it. It's just that we also want to acknowledge that things, like there are certain things that need to be done. And after I spoke with someone else who's at a housing authority, they said that we also needed to make sure that we were on record saying that we are permitting these things to happen. So it wasn't as much as it was about making sure that that there's a formal record. We're aware that you're going to do what you do behind the scenes, But we also wanted to make sure that if any, especially with the scrutiny that we are facing right now, we wanted to make sure that we have everything, we're crossing our Ts and dotting our Is.
Okay. I just wanted to make that statement, and I appreciate that clarification because it makes me feel much better.
Okay, so we have a plan for Joanne and Aaron and Mandy and whoever to move forward with getting everything connected. But we have a motion on the floor, officially, essentially saying that Aaron Estabrook has been appointed our new executive director, and we are authorizing him to move forward as such. So I want to call the question on that.
Just for record, Jamie's no longer on the meeting. So it's
Correct.
just you four.
That's okay. We'll be okay. We're
Linda,
4 out of 5, so we're good.
Linda,
Linda, you're muted.
Yes,
Jan,
Yes.
Kennedy,
Yes.
and Libby.
Yes.
Okay. Now, let's go back to the official agenda. And the old business is this RAD thing.
Okay, so I sent out the executive summary, and I realized it was fairly short. Before I get into this, I want to say that Aaron and I today spoke with Sheila Jones, who is the consultant that's assisting us through this process and being paid by HUD on our behalf. And she actually had emailed out an initial assessment as far as our options and what the money looks like. I haven't sent that out to you yet because I wanted to wait, number one, till we talked to her. And when we talked to her, she was basing the numbers that she was using on our 2018 expenses, our 2018 audit. And so we talked about we would send her our draft 2020 numbers as well as our 2019 audit so she could have more up-to-date information and revise her assessment accordingly. I also let her know that since the inspection had occurred, a couple of things have moved from non-critical to critical, including the elevator repair at the apartment towers, repair and or replacement, and also the Carlson Plaza boilers and chillers. So she was going to kind of adjust those numbers around a little bit as well. I'm having an issue with the HUD online systems getting into the e-tool that they submit online. So we're still trying to resolve that issue with HUD. However, Sheila thought that it may be a matter of, apparently they need to submit in that tool inflated and uninflated costs over the 20-year period. And we only have the uninflated costs, which was kind of one of my questions. I was kind of curious why the costs wouldn't be inflated over the 20-year period. So she was going to look into that, and also she sent me some information about getting access to the e-tools, and which it was something that was printed out. She sent it to Aaron as well, I believe. And so he will have the instructions for getting into and accessing it once we get whatever HUD glitch. Apparently, they updated the tool in the HUD system right kind of in the middle of the time we were receiving these reports. So we're not sure if it's a glitch in the system or if it's something that we need to do with the user registration for that system or what, but we're working on it. Let me just say that. So I will, I'm gonna have Erin, once she kind of adjusts those numbers, send those reports back out. The other thing is that she didn't have the expenses for the FHI development separate from the MHA expenses. And so she kind of took our expenses from 2018 and divided them by 232 units, which wouldn't be an accurate picture. It probably would be fairly close, but the FHI development has its own budget and its own set of expenses. So she has those as well, and she will then adjust the Flint Hills numbers that she showed, which you haven't, the reports that you haven't seen yet. She will adjust those on those reports as well. So she has sent out an email, and I will forward it to you, at least to all the members who have, I believe all the board members who have been on the previous calls. And they are trying to arrange another call next week that will include the HUD staff that were involved in the previous calls, as well as Sheila and Erin. And I'll forward it so that everybody has the information, so if they want to be included, they can chime in on availability.
Phil was in on that call, those calls we've had, so perhaps another board member would want to take Phil's place now that he's not on the board anymore.
Are you sure Phil was on those? Okay, I didn't think he was. I thought it was you and Livy and Kennedy.
Okay, maybe so, okay.
He may have been, I don't remember him being though.
I remember him being in the conference room, and we were tight little quarters.
Oh, that was a whole different call. Yeah, but he was in that call, you're right. So in the executive summary, in the narrative part, I just kind of summarize what the purpose and the objective of the report was, obviously, and made a note in there that this should not be considered independently of the entire report. I understand that the reports are long and they take a while to read and get through, but they do give a good explanation. And so maybe part of tonight, what I can do is kind of guide you through that guidebook to the books that I provided, to the parts that are not just boilerplate language, because some of it is just boilerplate language. It's just repeat in every single report. It's just repeat, repeat, repeat. So, and then provided some definitions that I used in the summaries that follow. So on the first spreadsheet, which is attachment 1, I believe, to this, it's the one that has a lot of pretty highlighting on it.
Excuse me, Joanne, somebody's machine is making a loud ticking noise. Does everybody else hear it, or is it just me?
Yes, I hear it.
I hear it too. I bet it's Joanne's.
It probably is. And I can't mute.
Okay. All right.
I'm sorry. Erin, we have this problem for the last 3 months, and I can't figure out what the setting is, so maybe when you are at it, you will be able to figure out what's causing this noise problem. Because I've tried everything I can think of. So on the attachment 1, by property, which is in the left-hand column, I have provided just a dollar cost of what the critical repairs are that need to be done within the next year, as well as the short-term, critical repairs that need to be done right away. The short-term repairs that should be done over the 1-year period, and the long-term repairs that would be done over, if we went to a RAD and we went out to a bank and borrowed money to do all of these repairs, it would be a 20-year term. And so this is kind of demonstrating how much money we would need to put into reserves each month to accomplish all of these repairs over a 20-year period. Is that making sense? And when we say critical repairs and short-term repairs, we're saying short-term within the first year of the term. When the RAD people are looking at these, it's generally considered a 22-year term. And then the note will, Sheila can probably better explain how the financing works on a deal like this, but it,
What I don't understand is they told us that we can't incur any more debt.
okay. But if the housing authority does some type of a RAD or a conversion to Section 8 project base, we're no longer public housing, and we have that ability.
But we
Now,
wouldn't be doing that for everything.
well, it
Are they
depends.
suggesting that we do that for everything?
They're not suggesting we do it for anything. What they're doing is outlining. Well, I say that, but yes, they've made recommendations about what they think we should do on other calls. But what form that takes on and whether it involves some or all of the property is a board decision. And so the other thing that Sheila shared with us today was that HUD has added a new form of RAD for housing authorities who have under 250 units. And it makes it a much easier application and a much more desirable application for small housing authorities to leverage, because in the some housing authorities just could not get enough equity to do a total RAD project or turn RAD what they wanted to turn into. And so I'm going to leave that in-depth discussion. Erin and I were both just referred to a PIH notice that just came out recently about a Section 18 blend for small PHAs. And I haven't even gotten into the meat of that notice yet. But what I asked Sheila is the next step, reasonably, a next step would be for the housing authority to engage a consultant to look at what the recommendations or what the numbers are that she has provided for different platforms of a RAD conversion, to break that down, look at what's best in the best interest of the housing authority, the residents, and the community, and make recommendations from a consultant point of view. she is on a limited 16-hour contract time. And so a consultant hired by the Housing Authority would be able to take an objective view and look at all the different platforms, because those guys know all the ins and outs and are better able to get into the in-depth of how it's financed, how it works, when what step occurs, and walk the Housing Authority through all of those steps. And I asked her if she had an idea, and she is also a private consultant, and she was, I asked her for an idea of how much she thought that might cost, because, by the way, we just got notified of our 2021 Capital Fund formula grant amount, which is $493,000, which is more than last year, about $25,000. So that's a good thing. But that's something that we could put in our capital fund budget to do. So what I have done on this was taken the numbers that were included in the tables, but in different sections. These tables in Appendix F of the report are all broken down by category, by life safety items, and then it'll list the critical, the non-critical, and the long-term improvements that would have to occur over a 20-year period. Do all of the 20-year period repairs need to be done right now or in the next 5 years? No, but they're looking at the expected useful life of the equipment, the roofs, the appliances, the kitchen and bathroom countertops and bathroom fixtures. They're looking at everything, and over, just like your home, over a 20-year period, if you bought your house when it was 10 years old, you're probably going to need to replace your roof in another 10 or 15 years. Or your furnace may need to be replaced depending on how old it was when you bought the house. So those are the things that they're looking at, not necessarily because they're in bad shape now, but over the period of the next 20 years, they're going to be, if they're not replaced. Does that make sense?
But if you replace them too soon in that 20-year period, then you might have to do it again in that 20-year period.
If you look at the table, so if you look at the tables in Appendix F, and I'm going to just, does everybody have their books handy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do Carlson Plaza, because that's the critical one.
Okay, we'll go to Carlson Plaza and go back to Appendix F. I'm going there myself because I lost my page. And you see it says, you see page 1 of 38, page 2 of 38, which just kind of itemizes what the project is, how many units there are, and et cetera. And then page 3 doesn't really have anything on it. Page 4 tells you what units they went in and inspected.
I haven't gotten there yet. Hold on.
Oh, okay.
I don't know where I am.
Well, the
I can't-
Appendix F is the last appendix in each report. It's where
Okay,
all the
does it have a
tables-
page number? Does it have a page number?
Well, it's page 1 through 38 of Appendix F.
Okay. All right, I'm trying.
Okay.
No, I think I'm at the end of it. Okay. So 23, 22, 13, 12, 9, 8. Thought I was in E. I'm sorry.
Isn't it F?
Okay,
No.
I got F. So now you want me on page 7 of F,
6.
6? Okay, I got it.
I'm sorry. Yeah, page 6.
Okay,
So if you look at page 6, it shows, it's at the, not at the very top of the page, but on top of the table. It
Yeah.
says components and conditions, site systems. And
Yeah.
then it says asphalt seal coat, building mounted lighting, compactors, emergency generator, striping and marking, which means the parking lot, okay?
Right.
So this
Yeah.
is talking about the outside site conditions of Carlson Plaza.
okay, except for the compactor.
True story. They're calling in here for an exterior commercial grade. Ours is interior, so I don't know, maybe it's something that the industry is working towards or going towards is exterior compactors. But it does say exterior compactor here. So, and then,
So are these critical or,
well, you know, on the site systems, they don't, on most of the categories, they list a critical, but on this one, they did not have a critical table. So they didn't have any critical repairs listed for Carlson Plaza, which was a little surprising.
which is a little ridiculous, right?
Well, you know, the boiler and the, was working and we hadn't had the issue with it that we did just recently until after the inspections. And that's what brought it up to critical. Okay,
But we do
So-
now.
but we do now, that's right. But this is based on when they were here and when they did the inspection and what they saw. So, but if you look at the table on that page 7,
Yeah.
you
6.
see
Page 6.
asphalt seal coat is the first item. And in year 1,
Oh, yeah.
$0 for that item.
Mhm.
In year 2, $0 for that item. Year 3, it might be a $1,140 cost. And in year 8, you go all the way over to year 8, there's another $1,140.
So you
So
have to
these-
do that every 5, 6 years.
They have put these costs in here according to the expected useful life of each particular component. This one makes, is exterior, so it's not really as clear, and maybe they don't do critical repairs for the exteriors. But if you move on and go to page, and then at the end of each category or component, they do just an overall summary of all the costs for that particular category. So if you go on to page 9, they are now looking at they put the critical repairs okay, in this particular instance, they put the critical repairs behind the others. But you see where it says critical immediate repairs on page 9?
And it
above
says
the
0,
first table?
and it says $0.
It says $0. And then if you go to non-critical immediate repairs, you'll see $56,220 is the total for building mounted lighting, compactors, and emergency generator. So if we went to a RAG conversion, it would probably be over a 2-year period. And in that first year, you need to get these critical things done. And, well, immediately, you need to get the critical things done. It would be part of the financing. Then the non-critical things over the next year. And then over that term, you would be looking at all of the items in years 1 through 20. Does that make more sense?
But we don't want to get a loan for years 1 through 20 because we don't have to fix all those things right now.
Right, but you're gonna be paying for those things. You're gonna be paying for your debt service over the next 20 years. And you want to ensure that you can put money into your reserves to pay for these things over the next 20 years.
No, I don't understand. But frankly, I
So
don't have to
paying
understand. Maybe.
ourselves. We're putting that into savings essentially,
Yeah, it's like
in
putting it into
anticipation of
savings
future
account.
repairs.
But we're paying
So
interest on a loan.
no, Jan, we're saving for the future. We're looking ahead and saying we will have these repairs and we can expect this much cost over the next 20 years. So it is prudent of us to put away that much money, even if we don't spend it this year. If we have extra, we save it up because we know we're going to have bigger expenses down the road of things we're going to have to replace.
Okay,
So
so
we're making
Your-
a loan to ourselves, our
Your
future
loan,
selves.
your loan amount would be probably $1.1 million or 1.2. So you can cover your critical and your short-term repairs. And you're gonna pay for that over another 20-year period.
but you're still saying we're getting a loan for that $1.1 million.
You are, so you can pay for the critical and the short-term repairs.
So we're not just using our own money, Livy. We're getting a loan that we're paying interest on for 20 years for things that we might not have to fix for the next 10.
Jan, no. Over the next 20 years, you're gonna put, so for apartment towers, $57,000 into reserves.
Then what's the loan?
I'm sorry?
What's the loan?
The loan is to pay for the critical and the short-term repairs.
Can I try to answer maybe something for you,
Sure, Aaron,
Jan?
maybe I'm not making it clear.
I think there's a step that we're missing that is critical, that maybe connects these two dots here, is if the RAD blend is what the board decides to do, if they try to do that with an asset, let's say that's Carlson, there will be another entity involved, and that entity is where that entity would be a nonprofit or something that isn't necessarily this board or the housing authority. So there would be the loan in place would be coming through them towards the Section 8 that is going to be secured over 20 years. Because you're converting from public housing to Section 8 and that rental. So you're getting farther along, and I think you're worried about the interest on the loans and things like that, but you have several steps before you get to where that's affecting you. So what Joanne's presenting in the and what the Gill Group has is that first year, second year stuff, immediate needs. That shows you just basically where what needs to be addressed right now. It's just an environmental scan assessment. It doesn't tell us anything other than what potentially Sheila could use to tell us what we might have to get in a long-term loan to meet those capital outlay things otherwise. The other good thing about RAD is what you were talking about, the reserves can stay with you. And where if you don't convert to RAD, those reserves go back to HUD each year. So you can't build that up to do that capital improvement over a 20-year period.
Aaron,
I don't know if
thank
that
you
helped.
for that. And as far as when Aaron mentioned other entity, it could be a private developer, or it might be an affiliate, like a nonprofit affiliate that is affiliated with the housing authority. The housing authority would essentially still own the property. Well, the affiliate would own the property, but it would be an affiliate of the housing authority. It wouldn't be a private developer out there or whoever. Does that help?
I think so. Okay, so just a basic, I think a basic understanding of what a RAD conversion even is. So let's say Carlson is our house. We have a set of upfront costs that we need to fix before we can sell the house. And then when we sell the house, we're selling it to a nonprofit who's going to let us still live there. No?
No.
Okay.
Because the entity would hold the loan to do the critical and the non-critical repairs.
So you're not,
we wouldn't
this
even have
board
to-
wouldn't really be on the hook, I think is what.
Right.
Even for the critical repairs.
The housing authority, right. The housing authority would be managing the Section 8 because it would become Section 8 project-based, which means that the voucher would stay with the project versus with the tenant. There are many different forms of RAD that you can do and many different ways that you can do all this. But like Aaron said, there's a lot of steps to get to that point. And this
So
is
all of this information then for the information, like if we did decide to convert a property, this is all the expenses that whatever the new entity, this would be their problem essentially.
Well,
so this is for their information. I mean, it would be ours if we were the entity that it converted to,
right.
or our nonprofit. Yeah, okay, I'm getting there.
So in that scenario, you would still have the Manhattan Housing Authority, but we would be a Section 8 only housing authority. We would no longer have any public housing. And the entity, the affiliate, or if that's the way that we went, would actually own the property and have the debt service, and they would be responsible for getting the repairs done, getting the loan, getting the repairs done, and making the debt service payments. Okay? And the Manhattan Housing Authority would be managing it maybe managing it for the affiliate.
So how does the housing authority get operating money to pay our staff and run everything?
Because the tenant's rent would still be based on 30% of their adjusted gross income. Depending on what model you went with, we would be receiving either RAD grants, which are, I'll say they're much lower than payment standards, or you would be receiving the Section 8 payment standard for each unit. So the tenant would pay 30% of their adjusted gross income for rent, and we would receive a housing assistance payment from HUD to make up the
vouchers,
the contract rent up to the payment standard. And so using simple math, let me give you an example. So we'll say in Sally's case, she paid, her 30% of her adjusted gross income is $200. And,
The rent is $1,000.
okay, it's not that high for a one-bedroom, but okay. So Sally pays $200 a month rent to the affiliate, and the HUD pays $800. So we've received, well, the affiliate has received $1,000 a month on that.
And what do
unit.
we get?
And the Manhattan Housing Authority is, we're gonna get an administrative fee for administering that voucher, which, what is it, Mandy, now, 51 something per unit per month?
I think it's 51.45.
51.25 per unit per month for managing.
Dollars or percent?
Dollars per unit per month for managing that unit, and we would receive a management fee if we're managing that unit.
So it sounds like
And-
we get $100 for those units, and that's not enough to run our housing authority.
Why would we only get $100?
Well, you said $51 and then a management fee.
We
How
get
much could
fif-
a management fee be?
51 per unit.
Right,
So
51.25 per unit per month, plus whatever management fee we,
which is how much?
whatever is negotiated.
But I'm saying,
So standard
Cut-
property
there's
management in Manhattan
$1,000
is like
paid
10%.
for there's, if it's 10%, so that's $10 or $100. So that's $150 a unit. Can we run our housing authority on $150 a unit?
Okay, when these numbers come out, I will send them to you, but on the models that she sent us, every single development cash flowed, and that was based on 2018 numbers. So I will, when those numbers come back out, Erin will send them to you. But, and I would suggest you sit in on that call. But again, it all depends on how it is, how the deal is set up and modeled and over after what RAD models you do it for. But the management fee is going to be much more than $10 or $100 or 10%. That's not how they're negotiated.
Okay. What do you know even ballpark what they normally are?
No, and I don't.
Okay,
I
that's okay.
haven't- Okay.
Mandy, what does this sound like to you? You're the money person.
Well, the only thing that I would probably add is that, you know, if we convert over, you're getting rid of public housing altogether. So you're not going to have that maintenance expense under the housing authority anymore. That goes to that affiliate agency. So if the housing authority would become, you know, form a 501c3 where they're the affiliate for it, then you would be paying maintenance based off of the rents that are coming in from those developments. So it's kind of almost set up. I don't know if you remember, but a while ago they changed everything to asset management for housing authorities that have 250 units or more. And we were underneath that, so we didn't have to, but this would run very similar to that, where there would be a central office cost center, and we would charge that affiliate if it's still underneath the housing authority. We would charge them a technology fee, we would charge them a management fee, we would charge them a bookkeeping fee, and those fees would come back in to pay for some of Erin's salary, some of my salary, since I may be writing the checks for that affiliate agency. So, you know, if you get rid of public housing altogether, you have to kind of think of it as a real business per se, where there is no maintenance at all for the housing authority anymore. We are only a Section 8 agency going forward.
But do we have to do everything, or can we just do Carlson Plaza?
Well, your finance, no, you don't have to do everything. And that, again, that's getting down the road where you're gonna have to make those decisions. Do we wanna do Carlson Plaza? Do we wanna do maybe the high rise? Do we wanna do the family units or, you know, the scattered site units? Those are decisions that are gonna have to get made down the road. And I think things are gonna become a little bit clearer. But Mandy, I know you looked at these numbers pretty closely, and I'm confusing myself because I'm not seeing the revenue from management fees. Is that included in the RAD subsidy? Do you remember? Or am I thinking of another model?
I think you're thinking of another model. I think that RAD subsidy would be all of the RAD rents that we would collect on just for this spreadsheet apartment towers. So annually we would collect $743,000, which is what they have down there under the RAD subsidy. So I don't think that includes any type of
Okay, that may have been under a different RAD model where there was management fees, if there was a private entity involved.
So I have a bigger question. Should we be making any decision like this until we know what the new administration is going to do about housing?
I think, well, number one, I think that's a question for maybe whatever consultant you hire down the road. And based on any new notices and regulations that might come out related to RAD, I can tell you, so for instance, the notice that I just mentioned to you earlier about the RAD conversions for small PHAs, are the notices and the regulations that are coming out are favorable to going to RAD. And even Sheila said on the phone today, this is HUD's way of getting out of the public housing business. And so
We don't have a new Secretary of Housing, and we don't have any reports of a Biden plan.
well, Jan, these are not decisions that are going to be made next month or the next 2 or 3 months. This is a process that will take some time.
Okay,
And I mean, there's, like Aaron said, there are a lot of steps between here and there that have to be done. There has to be resident consultation. And if there has to be, depending on what model you go with, if you go with an affiliate, that affiliate has to be created and set up. If you're going to dispose of the properties and make them under the ownership of the affiliate, you have to go through a disposition process with HUD. And there's just a lot of steps that have to be done. And I'm sorry, I can't answer all of your questions about RAD. It's going to be a learning experience for, I think, just about everybody. But your consultant, if you hire a good consultant, they're going to come in and they're going to break this down into layman's terms. Does that make sense?
I'll just add, Jan and board, that I think, so this document we have, that is this study from Guild Group, really in the summary that Joanne put together, that short-term repairs, that 1 year part is what you gotta really make sure you're paying attention to, because, well, in part because that 20-year stuff is gonna be changed because it didn't really include inflation numbers. So that's gonna be updated. But really zero in on the 1 year, because that 1 year, those are our problems, right? For you, all of you and now me, Those are our problems. And one solution is to explore RAD. But if we decide, as we have been, to explore RAD and on which assets, we're going to have lots of discussion and points of decisions where it takes us in so many different variables along the way. It's impossible to answer your question, Jan, that what's this look like at the end, because there's about 15 different turns you can make along the way, depending on how the numbers line up. But the good news is, I think what we heard from Sheila was there's definitely a path, right? There's a path, and that's one option that gets us to this $1.1 million problem we have with some of these things in our next year. So there may be other paths, there's other ways to do it, but don't look at the 20 years too much, because that's going to change when inflation's considered. And don't try to figure out all the RAD, because there's too many different turns we can make.
If RAD's gonna take us a year to do, we're gonna
probably
have
take-
to solve the immediate problems before that happens.
Jan, let me clarify. The critical and the immediate things are the things that that you would be financing, because a lender is probably not gonna lend on a property that has these critical things unless they can be assured that you have the funds to fix them and the property is going to be viable for another 20 years. They're not saying we have to go out today and replace those boilers, even though I added it to the critical list, and they need to be replaced today.
And they need to be replaced this year. We don't
And
have
they-
a year, we don't
they
have
may-
time for RAD to solve those immediate problems.
And before a RAD would come to fruition, before you would close on a RAD deal, some of these things may come off of the list. We may be able to address them. Some of them have already been addressed since they've been here. So for in all of the areas where they say tripping hazards, we've already addressed those. So those will come off of the list over the 20-year period. It's going to be a living document, and it's going to change as you go along. You know, some things are going to come off, some things might be added. And I added to the critical list the elevator, the boilers, and the chiller for the sake of discussion more than anything.
Right. But they're real. And we do have to do that. And we do have to do that before any of this kind of stuff is going to come to fruition or not.
Right. And just like the sidewalks, if we get those done before a RAD deal comes to fruition, then they're going to come off of that list and they're going to come off of the financing requirement.
Yeah, but we have about $400 we have about more than the capital money that you said we're going to get, which is almost $500,000. We have more than $500,000 worth of immediate repairs that need to be done.
Yes, and those immediate repairs are going to be within the term of the RAD deal, those critical and immediate needs. I understand what you're saying. We need to do these things right now. We know we can with what we have. And if we need to borrow money to do these things,
But we can't.
we can if we do it in a RAD deal.
But we're not going to get a RAD deal done in time, even if we decide to do it.
And we're getting capital fund money in the meantime, and we are beginning to put money in the reserve. So some of these things may come off of this list before a RAD deal would close.
Absolutely, they're going to have to. There's no choice.
I understand that. I'm with you. And like I said, I put them on the critical and the short-term immediate need list for the sake of discussion.
Okay, I'll stop.
Jan, I'll just add one thing. You know, for the elevator and the boiler at Carlson and the elevator here, you know, we I know it takes a while to get HUD funding in, but that could always be an option where it's an emergency situation that it needs to be done. And it needs to be done now to where we could apply for emergency funds with HUD to take up some of this cost and not use up so much of our capital fund program for that. But, you know, that's always an option. I know it takes a long time to get that funding, but if you can get an emergency grant to help pay for some of this stuff, that could help as well.
Yeah. Okay. We've done it before. We successfully did that. We got $500,000. I mean, we got $5 million. But it took forever, and we don't even have time to do that with the boiler. If that chiller doesn't work this summer, those people are going to be dying of heat in Carlson Plaza.
And there, Jan, there's no doubt that some decisions need to be made about that. And we believe we have identified money in the capital fund budget that can be moved around, the 20 and the 2021, that can be moved around, that we can, that boiler and that chiller can get replaced.
Okay.
Does that mean that HUD will not be giving us emergency money if we need it?
We have to apply for that emergency money.
Well, how can it be an emergency money fund if it takes over a year to get it?
Well, it didn't take over a year. It took 6 months, but I agree with you. There are things, we're kind of getting off subject here, but we have heard from the HVAC contractor that if it came down to it and we had to, you can actually rent big boilers and big chillers and big AC units, big condenser units to run a building in an emergency such as that. We're not going to let people freeze to death, nor are we going to let them burn up in their
No, we're not allowed.
apartment.
Okay, I'll get off my soapbox.
Problem is, if it fails, the residents are will go the 2-3 weeks or a month before the solution is found, and so we need to be proactive and know when, try to have the experts. When will it? What's the point of failure?
Hey, Linda, I'll just comment on that. When I met with the engineer and the contractor at Carlson that day, he told me that we could rent a HVAC system to put outside, or if we need the boiler system, we could rent that as well. And it's about $1,500 a month, and he ensured that he would have it installed within a couple of days, because it's literally just they bring it on a flatbed truck, they put it outside, and then they pipe it into the building there. So I would not foresee residents being 2-3 months without being in their unit.
I just know how long it takes to get things done with HUD, and it's just untenable. That's all.
Linda and I are in the same thing. Okay, so Joanne, are you done with this presentation? Does anybody have questions for her?
Well, unless you want me to go through the rest of it, I mean, I think it's pretty self-explanatory, but I just want you guys to understand that all of the information that I have kind of summarized in here, in this narrative, is included in Appendix F. It's a matter of understanding how to read that information. In the narrative part of the reports of those books that you've got, it goes through all the same components, and they make their recommendations in there, and they state, if something is in critical need, if something is a critical repair, or if it's something that should be replaced over the expected useful life of the property, or if, and they also make recommendations for green upgrades. So like energy efficient or even green concrete suggestions.
Yeah.
And so once you read one report and start reading another, you're going to kind of understand where the copy and paste parts of them are and see which portions of that you need to pay attention to. And you're going to see all the cost for all of those things summarized back behind Appendix F. I took on the attachment 2, I itemized the critical and the immediate non-critical repairs on that particular document. If I'd have itemized all of the long-term repairs, it would have been a pretty long document. And I just didn't want to start retyping the report into the executive summary. And that's about what I'd have had to do to break down the narrative part of it. Does that help guide you through the document at all? Aaron, do you have anything to add to that? I know you've been studying this.
No, I think that there's going to be, just keep in mind, there's going to be a revision because of those inflation numbers and some of the things that Gil's going to clean up for us. And this is just a really important baseline for us to forecast out and plan for budgets, for repairs. Just because it says short term doesn't mean it's or immediate. Doesn't, you get into the details further and you can see that some of those things we can prioritize differently. They're not all equal, right? So like some things can be pushed down farther if we have to. Some things need to be done sooner, and it's all laid out in those giant binders that we have. So we have something to reference, which is good.
I left room for the final reports in those binders, I hope. I left enough room.
Does anybody have any questions? This has been helpful, Joanne.
Next steps are the phone calls, basically.
Yes, and I will forward that email out to everyone. Aaron, I think I've already sent it to you, but I'll include you on it anyway, so that everybody has the opportunity. And don't be afraid to ask questions on those phone calls. And Sheila has put together some good information, and I think the revised information you get will be better information because she'll have better numbers to work from and more accurate numbers. But I think the real education is going to be from going forward is going to be from Aaron, as well as from a consultant that will be able to guide him as well as the board through understanding better the next steps. And because you hire a consultant doesn't mean you have to make a decision to go RAD or to not go RAD, or to do some or to do all. That's part of the consultant's job, is to help you understand and to make a good analysis of what will be best and what might be a disaster for the housing authority. That's part of a consultant's job.
I'll just add that as you think about all of this, keep in mind, it hurts. Some people may hear that we won't have public housing if we make that decision, and that's only true in the sense of the term, because what the goal is with RAD is there is little, if no effect on the resident. They won't see much difference and maybe improvements because they've got those buildings improved in a way. So the goal is to provide better for the resident while they don't lose any of their services. There may be misinterpretations out in the community, or as we talk about it, that if we do a certain thing, public housing goes away. That don't think of it that way. It's just really another way to do what we're doing better, potentially, without so many headaches from what HUD has been nudging everybody towards for a long time.
That's a very good point, Aaron. Thank you for making that. And you have a lot of decision making to do between now and to get to whatever decision you're going to make. There's going to be a lot of decisions along the way and a lot of learning and understanding, and it will become clearer. So, and you know, if at the end of the day, the board decides to not do any of this, this is still going to be a very valuable document because it's going to guide the agency in determining what they need to do in the future with their capital funds, and maybe bringing some things to more of a priority than they were before, and some things less of a priority. So it's still going to be a very valuable document, and we still have the energy audit to come. They have not sent us the energy audit yet. But I don't think I'm sure it's not going to affect any of any of the RPCA reports, but that part is still yet to come.
Okay.
One of the things I have hoped for is that we're being driven more or less to RAD. I'm interested in knowing it and exploring what some alternatives to RAD are. If that is the only one, then I want somebody to tell me that. But there have to be some other models that would be something we would consider also, and not just this one. And we have not heard one other route at all. It's just RAD or nothing. And that's where HUD is driving us, in my mind.
And Linda, keep in mind there are several models of RAD out there. Some of them we simply can't do. I mean, there's a model of RAD where it can still be public housing, and you can go out and borrow that money and make the improvements, but then you're going to have the debt service, and that's not something we can do in our financial status. And so, part of the goal will be to improve the financial health of the housing authority. That's going to be a major consideration, and that's kind of what she's working on, Sheila, is a pro forma to show you at the end of the day how the housing authority would come out financially, and a consultant will go through this with you also at the end of the first year, second year, third year, fourth year. But there's some models of RAD that the housing authority just is not wouldn't even be approved for.
Okay, anything else on this? I must say I'm not any less exhausted, but Aaron will deal with me for the next several months on this subject, I'm sure. Okay, I want to move on briefly to Kennedy and I and Joanne have developed a first draft of a goals paper for Aaron. And did Aaron get a copy of this?
Not yet. We haven't all agreed to it, so he hasn't seen a copy.
So this is going to be a living document, and there's nothing carved in stone here. But if we have determined that we are going to put Aaron on a 1-year, what's my word, Kennedy?
Probation.
We need to be able to, you have to excuse me, I'm 72. I lose words sometimes. We need to have a document by which we measure his success. So the purpose, and I think because of the situation that we are in, that we are going to have to micromanage just a little bit more than we would normally do, so that we are able to do that fairly. So Aaron needs to know exactly what we expect of him on a monthly basis for now. We might spread that out after the first three. We've written the first 4 months. We've drafted the first 4 months. Some of this is based on the situation we're in. Some of this is based actually on the presentation, Aaron, that you gave to us of things that were your priorities. So we tried to include things that we could think of and things that ideas that you gave us to put this in, and we've done 4 months. It's a draft. And we need to work on it continually. Everybody, I think Joanne got a copy of it and the board got a copy of it. I'm sorry, Aaron, you didn't get a copy of it. Kennedy, if you would send that to him tonight, that would be great, or now. As an example, you said in your presentation that you would meet with staff individually. And so we put that in as a goal in the first month, that you would meet with staff individually, that you would walk through units with Mike and tour and become familiar with properties, which there's probably a vacancy everywhere that you can see. Get a list of problems for units, have at least your first group staff meeting, do something to introduce yourself to residents, train with Joanne, and she's graciously offered to continue with you for a couple more weeks to do that. And there are some specific things listed under there and so on. So that's the kind of list this is, so that you can actually sort of check off and say, I did that. And what we'd like you to do in your monthly director's report is report on your progress on the goals. If you were unable to meet a goal, explain why not and when you intend to do that. In addition to all the rest of the stuff that you will be reporting on in your monthly reports. I feel very strongly that this is fairer to you, that we give you a very good list that you can check off and say, I was successful, I was successful, I was successful. And that we may, at the end of 4 months, decide that we want to do a 2-month goal or change the process. But go ahead.
We're supposed to have this on. I don't know that this is necessarily something we should be having in a meeting forum on record. This is being recorded and going out, so I'm not sure that.
Well, I think it's okay that the public know that he's going to be held responsible for stuff. I'm not going to go into any more detail. But I don't know how else we would do that. I guess we could do it in an executive session at the next meeting if you want to do that. But we just want you to know that we've been accused by HUD of not doing our job. And that was something that was very personal and very painful for our board. And so we are developing this process for you, and also to prove to HUD that we're doing our job.
I look forward to that, and I will receive that list and look through it. And I mean, everything seems reasonable. And of course, I report to you, and I'll make sure that those goals are reflected in the monthly updates. And if we need to add or change those, absolutely, no problem.
And it will be fine if you've got some things that you want to throw in there. We'd be happy to see you goal yourself out quite as thoroughly as possible, so that you can demonstrate that you're doing what we hope you'll do. Okay. Kennedy, did you want to say anything else? You helped me with this writing.
Yeah, I know. I just had some concerns because I don't think that we've ever publicly listed some of the things that were on an executive director's evaluation within a public forum.
Okay,
That was my own.
those were just sort of examples, so I think we're okay. I think that it's good for the public to know that we have a new executive director and the board is very concerned about the director's success in moving us out of the problems that we're in with HUD. And that are going to be very careful and thoughtful and right there. And we're also here. I hope that as you meet with staff, that you will also want, if you want to meet with us and talk about things with each of us, I think that would be great too.
Absolutely. Thank you. I think that there's a lot of work to be done, and it's not going to be done only by myself. It's going to take all of us, including the board and the team that we're working to, going to have that exists now, that's going to be coming together. So I accept the challenge, and but I'm also going to ask you guys to help in ways and utilize the board so we can really continue to move forward.
Okay. Is there any, I think that's it for since we moved the executive session to the front, I think that's all the business for the evening. It's 8:21. I assume everybody's hungry and tired. Hearing no further business, I suggest we adjourn.
Thank you.